All of you are welcome to the group. I hope you become a subscriber by the end of this movie. A lot of big steps have been taken by this administration to make crypto and blockchain technology more accessible to everyone. One thing I've been noticing is that Trump is making a lot of moves in this area of technology. Obviously, the answer is yes. Does someone tell him what to do through his ear? For sure he does. But I'm also sure that between David Sachs and the Crypto Council, he's getting advice from some of the best and most experienced people in crypto. Are there any pros and cons to that? As in, do you know if there is Bitcoin max? They should do what he says. There probably is, but you should also think about it this way. That latest crypto meeting where garlinghouse was there must have been a lot of talk about things besides Bitcoin, like how to update our payment methods and how we could use this technology in certain ways. I'm not too worried about the fact that Bitcoin will be approved while XRP and old coin are pushed to the sidelines. I don't think that's true because I've seen that comment a lot in the last couple of weeks. But let's start this video by talking about Congress. Ron Hammett from the Blockstream Association just published a blog post about this week in Congress and crypto in which he said, Congress is back and grind continues with key nomination hearings and moving the ball further on stablecoin legislation. Even though this is Congress's easiest crypto priority, it still has to go through a lot of steps before it becomes law. The most important thing to know this week is that the banking GOP will consider Paul Atkins for the SEC chair on Thursday. By the way, that's a big deal, especially for Ripple because Brad Garlinghouse did a lot to support Paul Atkins. I'm sure he knows how much Paul Atkins supports crypto. I think that is a pretty good choice for SEC chair. Jonathan Gold will be in charge of the OCC, and Luke Pettit will be the Assistant Secretary of Financial Institutions. All of them are for crypto and have worked on the problem for years. It's great to have all of them. The SEC is busy with their first meeting on digital assets and fixing several court cases, even though they don't have a chair yet. The Crypto Task Group is working on some tough questions at the same time that the Hill is having a lot of conversations. These questions about market structure have huge effects, and it's great that the SEC is listening to a lot of different points of view, both for and against the industry. This is especially important now, since Congress wants to talk about market structure after stablecoins. Now we'll talk about stablecoins. The Senate Banking Committee doesn't decide on very many things, but when they do, the majority of the time the bill becomes law. A regulatory relief bill was the last big bill to be voted on, and stablecoins got more support than that. For those who didn't watch the 3-hour stablecoin debate and vote, one of the strangest things that happened was Senator Warren openly promoting support for different amendments from bank lobbying groups. This was strange on many levels, but when is crypto policy not strange? Even though none of those changes were made to the bill, they are a good reminder of the other people who have a stake in the stablecoin fight, and which areas have the support of different political groups. Crypto doesn't usually have numbers that are good for politics, but right now it does. A vote in front of the whole Senate is the next step for stablecoins. In the meantime, the House starts working on a bill to deal with stablecoins, and it looks like the Financial Committee has scheduled a vote on their bill for next week. That bill will have to be joined with the Senate's at some point, according to Congress's rules. The speed is very fast, and doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. Both years of debate in Congress and now clear support from the White House to get stablecoins over the finish line have sped up the process. This means that by the summer, a stablecoin bill could be finished, have a strong vote from both parties, and be on its way to the president's desk. This gives Congress more time to work on the next crypto legislative beast market structure. This will take a lot longer. Besides that though, we are beginning to see some pretty big changes. On top of that, the banking GOP gave us big news. The FDIC, Gov is going to stop using image risk as a way to monitor banks. This comes after the committee passed Senator Tim Scott's FIRM Act, which would make it official for all federal banking inspectors to get rid of reputational risk. This is a very big step forward, as David Sachs himself said, big win for crypto. Following the lead of the US OCC, FDIC Gov has taken away image risk as a factor in supervising banks. It's possible that some of you may not remember that the OCC gave us a big update on March 7th about how US banks can now be validators on public networks, hold crypto for users and hold stable coins. This is a $1 trillion news story. Additionally, we have reputational risk, which sounds good in theory, but is described as the chance that bad press about a business's practices, whether true or not, will lead to a loss of customers, expensive lawsuits, or less money coming in. In reality, Operation Chokepoint 2.0 was used to justify cutting off banks to legal crypto companies based on these vague and subjective criteria. Criteria for banks should be fair and based on numbers, not on the chance of hearing lies. Thanks Senator Tim Scott for taking the lead on this through the Firm Act. Also, yes, it's a huge win for crypto. Also, think about what's happened in the past 2 weeks. What I mean is that there have been some very big changes in crypto lately, especially in the banking world. We also had an update from the tokenized show with Akoy Sheffield from Visa, who is the head of crypto at Visa. The OCC recently gave the go-ahead for crypto-based business ideas for banks. This includes letting banks hold crypto, which was almost impossible after SB 121 was revoked, letting banks accept deposits for stablecoin reserves, and letting banks run nodes on a blockchain so they can take part in stablecoin transactions, such as a validator. Quickly look at this. As a result, the market has become more interested in steady coins, and their use and growth have increased. This is something that banks all over the US have pointed out. They said we have this OCC guidance that needs a non-objection. So yes, we're interested in the room. We'd like to do things in the room, but getting a non-objection makes it hard for us to do anything. Now that there is updated advice that doesn't need a non-objection, banks can make a plan, work on a proof of concept, and start looking for partnerships and infrastructure providers that they can trust. That doesn't mean banks don't have to deal with and handle risk. It's a big part of banks to figure out how to handle and lower risk. So yeah, listen up, banks are now officially okay with crypto in a big way. For that reason, it seems like we are almost at the point where banks will just pile in. This is also what Monica Long told us, and it all starts with rules that make this clearer. I believe we are making progress. All of this is being brought up now because I want to talk about this big news that happened on the 25th. So Trump updated the way the government pays bills yesterday to cut down on fraud. President Trump signed an order to update the payment methods used by the U.S. Treasury. The order brings together 47 payment systems that were previously separate and requires everyone to use the Do Not Pay list to stop fraud, waste, and abuse. This project is moving toward internet payment methods to make things run more smoothly and lower the risk of fraud, which is much higher with paper checks. Keep in mind that Elon Musk just recently said that many things related to the U.S. government should be linked to each other. It's possible that this is the start of the U.S. banking system going on-chain. Pay close attention to this video clip though, because it breaks down everything about this big change. But take a look. We want you to pay attention to a presidential order that has to do with government payments. Checks from the Treasury are thought to be 14 times more likely to be stolen than internet transfer payments in the past. This executive order will force the Treasury Department to update its payment system so that internet methods of payment are used instead of paper checks whenever possible. This will help the government cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse, which is clearly something we've been working on in many areas of government while you've been in charge. Modernizing tools and methods is what it's all about, and I think he wanted it, Scott. He's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury. That's why we're doing this and other projects to bring things up to date. Let someone else do it, whoever comes next, whoever that is. 25 to 30 years ago, this should have been done. There you have it. Okay, the big question now is whether this will lead to